Kira with Polymer Clay TV. Do you recognize this? This is my version of the ribbon end bracelet. And I did it with the Wild Things pattern to make my own blinged out version. Let's go make it. Here's where I'm going to do some measuring and sort of ballpark measuring. I'm never really super strict on my measuring because I don't like to make myself crazy. But since these are the ribbon ends I'm going to use, I am going to measure how large I should cut these pieces. So now I'm just going to come to the other side here. And I'm just cutting this at the width that it's going to fit inside these two ribbon ends. And then I'm going to cut them to be about 1.5 inches long because my wrist, and I'm going to wear this bracelet, so my wrist is pretty close to 6.5 inches. So if I do this, then I know I have room, maybe 1 inch, and I'm feeling the 1.5 inches is good, because if I do too much, then the bracelet's going to be loose, and that's not what I want. I want it to fit me nicely. So you can measure yourself. Bracelets can be a little difficult. See, if I know that if I do this, I will have enough length to fit me even if I have to put a little extender chain on it. But if I make it too big, then it's just going to clunk around and roll around on my wrist, which I really don't want it to happen. So now I'm going to get my trusty can. This is a large can from a coffee drink, and this is how I like to bake my bendy things. So I'm going to stick these onto the can like this. And on the back or bottom, whatever you want to call it, of this can, I have actually taken some 2-part epoxy sculpt and made a little flat holder thing. It's stuck on permanently to the bottom of the can, and that way it doesn't roll around in the oven. So when I put it on my tray in the oven, the can doesn't roll around, and that way I know that my pieces will stay safe when they're baking. So now you can decorate. I'm just going to get some components ready. So if you watch the show, then you know that I really like bling. Elisa doesn't, so you get a little different taste from each of us. So this is a bracelet that I bought really cheap at one of the craft box stores, and I liked it because it had this very small cup chain on it, and it's antique gold, which goes with my color scheme. And all I'm doing here is just cutting them down to fit. And this is really easy to do with just a regular pair of wire nippers. So I know that I need to cut off 4 of these, and you can do that just by getting in between the stones and cutting. So don't be afraid to cut up your cup chain. Now for the decorating. So for this set, I'm going to be making little rectangles like this to lay onto my other pieces. And these came from Deco Discs, and this is the Wild Things set. And I'm just going to show you, just have a little show and tell here on how the heck did she do that. So these are acrylic stamps, and they come in sets of 3, like these are the Marvelous Mandalas, or in the Create Along box we often put in a special edition one, like this is the butterfly one from the Butterfly Bollywood box. So you might get 1, but the ones in the shop generally come as a set of 3. So all you have to do with these is condition up some clay, and I would suggest that you not use super mushy clay because this is a hard stamp, okay, and these aren't peeled, but they have a nice shiny acrylic back, and you can use this for cane reducing and rolling lentils. All kinds of things can be done with a nice acrylic for putting a stamp on it. If you wanted to use one of those silicone stamps, it's the same kind of thing like a stamping block. So they have other uses, but I want to show you how to get an impression and show you how I made that design. So the reason I say don't use super mushy clay is because it's hard and you don't want your clay to get stuck inside of it. So generally I would just warm up the clay in my hands. I did roll this in my pasta machine first, and then press down. Press it into the acrylic. This is not a traditional rubber stamp where you would put your clay down and then stamp into it like that, because you're not going to get a very good impression at all. So what you want to do is kind of stick the clay to the acrylic and then gently peel it out, and you get that beautiful, it's nice and deep. It's a really nice impression. Now if your clay is super sticky, then I suggest you use mica powder or cornstarch, or even a little bit of Armor All spray. That's what I usually use if I feel like my clay is going to stick. Armor All is like a silicone tire spray here in the US. I'm not sure what brand names they use overseas, but something that would be used to protect car tires, automobile tires. But that's how you do that. And then for these, I just used Brilliance ink, and after you've done your impression, you can just stamp the top of it. So that's exactly how I did the cheetah pattern from the Wild Things, and it comes out so nice because you've got a lot of texture and pattern in there. So these little guys have been sitting around just waiting for me to find a use for them. So what I have here is, these are 3/4 of an inch wide by the 1.5 inches long that I made them. So I want my pieces that are going to go on top of that to be smaller. So this one I cut to 1/2 inch wide and 1 1/4 inches long, and that way it'll give me room on the ends to clamp those crimpers without having to go over a really thick piece of clay. And I also want to put my rhinestones to the sides of them, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to pick where I think I have a nice looking pattern and square off the bottom and a side. I did say square, right? So just work on that till you have a nice square, and then just grab a ruler. This is where I would suggest that you be a little more precise, so just so that your design looks nice and even. So there's my 1/2 inch. And my 1.25 inches is here. So there's 2 pieces. And through the magic of video, there's my 3rd piece. And I'm going to say, because I'm going with a gold color scheme, I don't love that this one I already stamped silver. So I'm going to go over it with some lightning black. That is one of my favorite colors. It's kind of a dark antique gold. And I'm just going to make this more gold than silver so it goes with the rest. All right. And now I'm just going to assemble. I have my liquid Sculpey clear and a clay brush specifically to help me out with the rhinestone application. But first I'm going to lay down these clay pieces. And now I'm just going to kind of run a bead of liquid clay next to there, like this. No biggie, just because I'm going to be sticking that rhinestone down, and because it has a fine chain underneath it, clay will kind of seep under the chain a little bit. I'm just placing it with my ultimate tool right where I want it. Tools are useful when your fingers don't fit. So I know that that little bit of liquid clay under there is just going to kind of help those to stick. So I'll do that on each side. Okay, so when I was looking around my studio, I couldn't resist this. Who doesn't like a little unexpected pop of color? So I grabbed my copper patina color palette of powders, and I'm going to use this I'm going to use that liquid Sculpey and mix myself a little paint. So how you can do that is by taking some powder and dumping it in. Use your clay brush. And just dab it on. And I'm going to go down to the edge because I'm not sure quite where that crimp is going to hit. But basically, anywhere where the crimp is not covering, you're going to see this interesting little bit of blue. So think about that when you're doing your artwork. You know, how can you make it different? What can you add to yours to make it your style, to make it look interesting to someone who's just getting a glimpse of it? I could have left the copper color, but I thought, that would be cool if there was just this little unexpected bit of blue peeking out where the finding is. Okay, so I'm going to finish working on this and bake it for half an hour in my oven. The stones will be fine. They're made of glass. You can use glass, crystal, natural stone. Just don't put plastic in the oven. You don't know what's going to happen if you were to use plastic rhinestones. A lot of times they'll melt into a blob, and then that won't be very pretty. So decorate them however you like, and we'll come back and put it all together. Now it's time to put it together. So here are my pieces out of the oven, and I just popped them off the tin can, and you can see that they're curved, which will make it nice to fit on a wrist. So I always find it easier to do all the findings before attaching them to my bigger clay pieces, because I just have an easier time with all the fiddly bits and things if they're by themselves. So what I decided here was to use a jump ring, and then I had these pretty rope rings that have no split in them. They're just like a decorative ring. So I thought that would be cool to put in between the two that are going to show here. So all I did is you open the ring, and I put the decorative one between, and now I just have this one that's plain to attach to that decorative ring. And you always open and close jump rings sideways. You don't pull them open. So then you can just slide them back to the side. And then when you're putting this all together, you just want to make sure that they stay straight. So I added one ring to that side. That'll be what my lobster clasp goes onto. And I'm just going to put this all together and check it for fit before I attach the claw and make it closed. So the way you attach these together is really easy. They are made to clamp onto things. They have little baby teeth inside there. So you just put your clay, slide it in there, and get your flat nose plier and squeeze it shut. All along the length of it, and let those teeth bite into your clay. So easy. And now it's on there. You don't need any glue, nothing. So just keep attaching. All right, my bracelet is together, and this is just so super fun. See how they just clamp right on there, and your bracelet is put together in no time flat, and it looks really cool. And depending on the style and colors that you choose for your findings and your clay, you can just have a grand old time with this. You can decorate the sides of the clay if you want to. I mean, you can go nuts. And I love it when little things like this trend through polymer clay. Somebody started this craze with the ribbon ends, and I just had to do one of my own. I love my Wild Things pattern, and I thought it was the perfect recipe for creating a really blingy bracelet. So now all you would need to do is check for fit and decide how much chain or whatever you might need for giving it the perfect clasp. So this actually fits me pretty well. I might add a link or two just so that it can slide around a bit. But when you put that little gentle curve in it, it fits the wrist perfectly. So I hope that you really enjoyed this idea and that you will come over to polymerclaytribe.com and share what yours look like. Be sure to go to polymerclaytv.com to see all the other projects. We have over 400, almost 500 YouTube projects by now. So lots of stuff to see and do. And I will see you next time on Polymer Clay TV.